Hello, everybody, and welcome back to that Milan podcast. Another quick, short episode coming your way here. But before we start, we would like to ask you to subscribe and follow the podcast. Obviously, on the YouTube channel, audio platforms, Spotify, Apple, you have everything there on the ticker and the caption on the screen. Link in the bio and description as well. So there's so many different things that and ways that you could watch and listen to us. So again, we appreciate everything. Again, just like, subscribe. Martino, Matt, alongside me as usual. Check out yesterday's episode that we did on the recap of Milan versus Empoli. Today, Matt, we are going to be getting into the Champions League. There is a hectic schedule that we have reminded you all very so often about, and here is really where it's basically coming to life. So Milan Feyenoord, Matt, 2 legs in the Champions League, away for the first leg. So we'll just pretty much deep dive into it. We're just going to get into the first leg for now, guys. Give you guys a little preview, our prediction, and yeah, basically that's that. Matt, very funny matchup to have. Obviously disappointing not to make the top 8 in the Champions League, but Milan now facing off against Santi Jimenez's now former club in Feyenoord. So yeah, let's get into the matchup. So again, they had a pretty good go of it in the league phase. Feyenoord did, but they had a little bit of chaos entering the club. Basically, their high was beating Bayern, and then it kind of went a little downhill from there. 6-1 loss to Lille. Then they sold Santi to Milan. And now, as of this morning, and actually just an hour ago, they had just sacked their manager. So that is the second manager now that would be their third manager in less than a year because Slot was there last year when they won the league. I mean, good time, bad time to face a club? Like, what do you think? New manager boost? We saw us basically thrive under the new manager boost in Conceição. So what is your kind of feelings and sentiments heading into this first leg here on the away in the Netherlands?
So initially, you would kind of believe that the fact that Feyenoord are changing coaches so close to this game would make it a little bit more advantageous for Milan. But truthfully, the fact that we did sign Santiago Jimenez from them, and the fact that they are changing their manager, initially would feel like Milan are in a better position to win this first leg or to have the upper hand. But I'm more concerned about Milan than I am worried about Feyenoord, because it's really, I don't feel is a matter of competition when it comes to talent versus talent. I think, no disrespect to Feyenoord. I think they obviously are here for a reason. They walloped Bayern Munich, humbled them 3-0 a couple weeks ago or whenever, not too long ago. But I'm more concerned with Milan because the performance that Milan put up against Dinamo Zagreb away, was very poor. We had the same coach. Yes, some players going to be different. The squad list, there are some changes to that squad list, which obviously we will get into for those who are curious as to what the squad looks like with all these new additions that Milan have made and the exits as well. But that's really where it is for me. I think that Milan have played, for the most part, the Champions League phase or the group stage,
The
or group
league phase,
whatever, pretty well. They won 5 in a row at one point. They went into that Dinamo game, and that really was sort of indicative of what Milan have been this entire year, where it's like when they needed to get a victory, they more or less kind of tend to underwhelm.
Yeah.
And there were moments in that match that Milan could have had, more opportunities to put themselves in the position to finish top 8 and to make their pathway through this competition.
Musa red card ruined everything.
Yeah, the red card absolutely killed everything from Yunus Musa. So that's kind of where my feelings are right now. I think that Milan, look, they have to show the fans, they have to show those that are going to be watching that they are a team that isn't just acting like they're happy to be at this phase. They should be acting like they belong because they're AC Milan, because they have a lot of the quality and a lot of new added quality. And that's where I'm feeling I am right now, at least going into this first leg. And, based off what we saw, of course, in the Dinamo game, which wasn't very good.
Yeah. Not a great performance there. They were playing poorly before the Musa red card. Should mention that. Obviously, Musa is
Yeah.
going to be suspended for this leg. Want to get into the squad list real quick, Matt, because of obviously those new signings that came through. So let's get into those real quick. So this is the main list for the team. Manyan, Tamori, Chow, Pavlovich, Walker, Emerson Royale, who's injured, Teo, Fofana, Loftus-Cheek, Reinders, Musa, Chukwueze, Pulisic, João Felix, Leao, Abraham, and Jimenez, Santi Jimenez, from Italian academies, because you have to reach these, I don't know, I guess you could say
Quotas.
quotas. Yeah, exactly. For the Champions League. So Sportiello, Florenzi, Terracciano from Milan's academy, Matteo Gabbia, Lespi, unlimited changes. Those are really just in the sense of an emergency. All the names listed below, and then the player changes here. New players in: Kyle Walker, Felix, Santi out, Calabria, Benacer, Okafor, Morata, all 4 players who had left the club entirely, not just left off the team sheet. The ones that are not included are Luka Jovic, Alex Jimenez, Warren Bondo, and Ricardo Sotil. So those guys will be exclusively in Italian competitions. So you'll be seeing them used a lot more in sort of like the aggressive sort of areas where people need to come in for substitutes. Say Milan kind of kill off a match a little bit early. You'll see more of Jimenez, Bondo, Sotil, get more of those there. We'll see who they end up facing in Coppa Italia. But the squad list, it's kind of expected. I have no real complaints about it. I kind of see where the club is coming from with this. So again, yeah, for me, listen, enough quality here to beat Feyenoord. There's no excuse for it. We'll see what ends up happening. They're going to be on the road. It's going to be difficult for this first leg. Again, guys, make it a point to remind everybody there are no road goals. There are no away goals counting towards this kind of stuff. So if your brain is sort of locked in the past like that, there isn't any sort of advantage Milan could have here. It's just basically a one-off game, and whatever the scoreline is, they have to bring out this sort of intensity. So even if they score a 1-1 draw, it's just what it is after the first leg. For me, sort of interested in where the approach is. You and I kind of talked about it with Torgrud and starting players in this one. For me, you don't mix around or mess around with anything. You start Santi. I think where we've seen this adaptation period with the players that we've had and how they looked in that second half, despite being down a man for a short amount of time and then obviously being on even strength, there is no question for me. You start your best striker. This is the Champions League. It's not in Serie A. When you're playing Empoli, you can kind of get away with letting Tammy start the game, seeing how it unfolds. You don't really have time on your side here. You need to step on the throat, keep your foot on the gas, see how many goals and created chances that you can make. And I think Milan's best course of action for that is by starting Santi. What do you think of that? Would you want to start Santi in this one? And what other maybe potential players you want to have in here? Obviously, Musa not going to be able to start because he's suspended.
Sure. So ties like this, competitions like this, are why you brought in a player like Santiago Jimenez in January. Why you spent over, almost 30 plus million on him, including bonuses for a player like this, right? You brought him in to make that impact at this stage, right? Same thing with João Felix. Same thing with, Kyle Walker, right? Like you brought in that next caliber, that next grade of player. You put him out there. Unless there is some sort of unforeseen issue that we are not privy to that came off the back of the Empoli game where he's feeling a little under the weather or banged up or
Yeah.
whatever. I haven't seen anything like that. I know it's a quick turnaround, but these games are very important financially for Milan, yes, but also for the go forward when it comes to bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
As what people perceive Milan to be, and you want to be going far in competitions like this. So you don't pull any punches. You put Santi out there. You maybe put João Felix from the bench. You bring Leao. You bring Pulisic. Honestly, I even said this off at the back end of our previous episode. I think maybe with Torgrud that I want to start seeing how the combination of Leao, Pulisic, Felix, and Santi can coexist. Now, maybe that is too much in a match like this because obviously you kind of want some certainties. And I think that while I do love all 4 of those players in their own way and for what they provide, maybe it might be a little too much. And I think that giving the opposition that sort of different look when it comes off the bench, I think might be the better play here, right? Where you can say, I'm going to start Santi, I'm going to start Pulisic and Leao, but then I'm going to bring on Ja Felix. Maybe I can play him off of Tammy in a two-strike formation. I could do some things midway through the match. So you maybe don't want to show your hand completely, but I think on the basis or the topic of Santi, whether or not he should start, absolutely he starts. This is why you brought him in. You brought him in to advance in this competition, and setting the tone early on in this match is going to be crucial, because if you can get a goal and you put yourself in the driver's seat in this first game, obviously it make things a lot easier in that second leg at Milan, where you can kind of maybe navigate the game a little differently. And I know that the match is coming up for Milan. I don't have him in front of him exactly,
Verona.
but I know Verona is on the weekend. So this is a pretty good schedule for Milan to play their best guys. There really aren't many reasons why they should be prioritizing a given domestic fixture for the opponent that they're going to be playing there versus a Champions League fixture like this.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's most interesting as to who the substitute for Musa is. Loftus-Cheek obviously injured. You don't have Bondo in this situation, so the midfield is kind of looking very interesting. Because Reinders and Fofana are obviously going to carry the heavy lifting in this. Fofana got subbed off relatively early, so he did get some rest against Empoli. Only really played half a match. We saw Leao and Pulisic, who have been told that they've been nursing injuries so a little bit. They're going to get more rest in terms of this quick-ish turnaround, because they didn't actually play that often or play that much in this match. So for me, I think it's interesting to where he goes from the start. So again, I do see Felix starting from the beginning because of the options here. Because I don't really see what he's going to go do in terms of, for me, it's sort of like, is it Pulisic and Chuk or Zhao? I think it's those three guys. Chuk, I think, is the odd man out in this situation, considering recent play and what he would bring to the team. I could see in a way where Felix does not start. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying the scenario. Felix sits. They have Chuk on the right, and Christian works as the number 10 centrally. I
Is
don't
there
really.
any possibility that Leao is not quite ready to start? Like, is that kind of past us? Because I know he didn't start in the game against Empoli.
I
So
think that's kind of where they took the caution, was like, okay, since it's Empoli, we're going to put these guys on. We think we can get away with it. And they did. And now Leao had more time to sort of
and
rest.
he
And then
didn't look like he had any setbacks or
same goes
yeah.
for Pulisic. I thought, like we said,
Yeah, they
Pulisic
both
looked
looked
very
fine.
lively.
Yeah.
And I think it's integral, like very important, sorry, to get that sort of rest, because I do think like 4 days or so is pretty important and
Yeah.
substantial. So, and on top of it being half a match for multiple players here, ultimately, I think he has to go quality over just playing it safe. I think Chuk can do something in the Champions League. I think European football is more suited for his style. I don't think he's played well enough to warrant a start here. I'm just saying, I think if there were to be a player within this 11 and all these guys that we have here that could start in place of Felix, it would be Chuk. No one else kind of makes sense with what we've been rolling out. Emerson Royale can't play, obviously. We'll see what the center back pairing is. Maybe a two striker formation with Tammy. Maybe it's Santi and Zhao up top, with the two playing off of each other. And there's Pulisic Leao with Fofana and Reinders centrally, where it's sort of this 4-4-2. I think we could sort of see that happen instead of the three midfielders, but that would require Rafa working a lot more and harder off the ball, which Felix as well is going to have to do. I have no questions about Christian in regards to him working off the ball. So it's just going to be interesting to see how he starts off with it. So yeah, I think Milan are going to have to put their foot on the gas. We'll see how Feyenoord kind of respond. They have been conceding quite a bit. It's not like that they were like shut down against Bayern as well. They have been conceding quite a bit in their most recent matches. If I'm just going to pull them up right now on how Feyenoord have been doing. They did win 3-0 over the weekend against Sparta Rotterdam. So in the cup against PSV, they lost 2-0. They lost to Ajax 2-1. And then before that, they lost to Lille 6-1. They had like an inconsistent run of form. prior to that in December, they were winning quite a few amount of games. They did pretty well against Bayern, as we mentioned, with that 3-0 beatdown. Bayern is just very odd instance there. They were at home for that one. So they're not to be taken lightly. Again, these are
Are capable
teams are
of
really
of
tough to
pulling
challenge.
out a really good performance. Yeah.
Yeah. So for Milan, I don't know. Again, we've sort of seen them go hot and cold with this sort of stuff. So for me, I'm not worried per se. I just don't think we could ever look at this team this year and say, "Oh yeah, I can almost guarantee the way game is going to
Yeah.
go for them." Um, but again, we also haven't seen them start with this sort of offensive quality from the start, like you and I were talking about yesterday. We're just kind of seeing it in doses, second half against Roma, second half against
Yeah.
Empoli. Where are we going to get this from the start? If Milan get this from the start, do you think they're capable of like pulling off a lot of creating chances and maybe even getting 2 goals or so on the road?
I do. I mean, I think, we know that Feyenoord are a team that are capable of pulling out a quality Champions League performance, right? And there's levels to that, when it comes to, what you need to bring to the table in the Champions League versus domestically. And obviously, in an ideal world, you're able to replicate what you did on the weekend against Empoli in terms of goal production and creation and all those things, and you're able to bring it to the Netherlands and kind of mimic that and get some goals there. But again, I think I don't think this team, it's really a matter of the quality. The quality's there. We've talked about the names at length.
Mm.
It's exhausting at this point to say how much
I mean,
quality we
that's
have
why it's
relative
short
to what we're
today.
producing. It's more so, can this team bring it character wise, mentality wise? Can
Mm.
they show up on the occasion and be a team that gets on the front foot and goes up 1-2-0 after 25, 30 minutes, and Milan are really coasting and cruising, and they kind of sort of kind of navigate the game very carefully, and they get a nice easy win here. That would be great. That'd be fantastic. But you and I know, and we know this team well enough, that that's not always the case. So I think that there are some cautionary things here, especially with the defense, right? We don't really know what the
Yeah.
pairing's going to be. Fikayo had a blunder on the weekend. Pavlovic, those two players weren't as good against an Empoli side. Granted, the conditions weren't great, as we mentioned in our
Right.
recap episode, which you guys can go check that out as well. So there
Plug.
are some things, right? There are some kind of concerns that you kind of have, like that kind of like tread lightly with this team, with how much grace and how much confidence you give them, because they can kind of tease you with a really good performance and players kind of laughing and having a good time scoring goals. And then they go on the road and you're like, why am I seeing a team that's not pressing for these 50-50 balls? Why am I seeing a team that's getting countered to death and their defense is getting obliterated? And why is Magnon getting beaten near post? Like, there's so many things that Milan have gotten wrong this year, top to
Yes.
bottom, that you also have to kind of like tread lightly with how you foresee certain games winding up, irregardless of who they're playing and what the occasion is.
Yeah, I think also like with this situation with Feyenoord sacking their manager, they according to the Sempre Milan article, they basically said that they expect to announce an interim trainer and backroom staff tomorrow because the assistant coaches also have left. So it's an
It's a
entirely
whole
new
new team,
coaching.
whole new
It's a
staff.
whole new staff, and
Yeah.
with that, you're sort of thinking to yourself, okay, we have one day of preparation, right? So we're looking at it through this Feyenoord sort of lens here. Your best course of action when you're facing Milan at home is to do what? And it's very interesting because if you play defensive at home, it's probably the more likely place that you can get your result or a win or get a score like that. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you're heading 0-0 going into San Siro or you're tied, that's even more difficult to try and pull that off, because you can get away with it maybe one game. And how do they do over the weekend? Because they still have like all these things to aim for. It's sort of chaos for them. We can always go off of like new manager boost, a team just staving off, the opposing team just because they're just a fortress defensively.
Mm-hmm.
What about them coming apart at the seams? Like, they did just lose 6-1 against Lille. Like, they're also, like, in comparison, not playing that great. They've had poor results. it's not like that they're incapable of, repeating that. It's a highly likely chance for that sort of stuff to happen. I just think the logical way to go about it is that they're going to come out defensive. They're not really going to give Milan that much because they don't have much to go off of. They're in chaos right now. The entire coaching staff is gone. How do they prep just for this one match? What are the players thinking in their head? Like, how do we handle this? This is a really good team. They just got our striker. Where's our attacking threat at this point in
Yeah.
time? There's a lot of question marks. And by the way, they announced that sacking today. Like, the manager was there yesterday when they won, or over the weekend when they won. So I just think there's a lot of chaos with them. It's really difficult. So we'll go with the overall commentary of the tie, but we'll also give a prediction for Wednesday. 2-1 Milan. I think them starting with all these attacking threats will bode well for them. I'm not convinced centrally, off ball work. How do they handle potential counterattacks if they come out defensive? That's where my cause for concern is. Where's your cause of concern? You kind of highlighted it a little bit, but ultimately the prediction for this, I'm just going to go 2-1 based off of that. Listen, even a 1-1 draw isn't the worst thing in the world, but personally, I think if we can get a win, sets us up very well heading to the return leg.
My hope is that they play with this kind of we're happy to be here. We really have nothing to lose mentality. And what I mean by that is they know that Milan just took their one of their best players, if not their best player. They reinforced their squad in January, and they're the odds-on favorite to advance out of this tie. So what do? They either play, hey, look, we got a new coach, we're at home, let's play freely. Let's press the issue. Let's see if we can kind of maybe create something, force the issue. If we play scared, you play timid, you're basically welcoming a barrage of chances on your goalie. And at that point, you're really putting yourself in a position where Milan can kill this game off or kill this tie off in the first match, which I think would really bode well for Milan if the game is open, because that's where they tend to thrive, when the game is pretty open back and forth, like the Roma game, right? Where it was like Roma were playing, pretty aggressive. So they were trying to create chances, risk men forward. And that obviously bodes well for Milan because they like to counter. So if that's the way the game or the mindset goes, whoever the coach is with Feyenoord for this game, then I think Milan are going to get 3 in this game. I think it'll be 3-1. I think there'll be moments where the match is pretty tight. And
just real quick before you continue, bet that, guys, because he's been getting these accurately. So go ahead.
I think 3-1 is a pretty fair result, and I think that maybe 3-1 on the surface might look like kind of a dominant performance from Milan away, 3 goals away, you get the victory. Sure. But I think it's going to be one of those matches where it's tight for good parts of the match.
Yeah,
Feyenoord
and then they pull away late,
and then Milan somehow kind of their quality prevails, and ultimately is the thing that kind of puts them over the edge, and they get that extra goal that kind of sees the game off. So I'm going 3-1 Milan.
Okay. Yeah, the funny thing with Milan is their goals always come in bunches and their chances come in bunches. Like we sort of see
waves. It's like very
yeah, of course,
and windows where they score like 2 goals, 3 goals, and
it's reminiscent of basketball when teams go on runs. Like when Milan are like within the flow of a match, they create multiple chances at once. I think Pulisic is going to be the one to make a stamp here again. Almost every single time it feels like it's him. I hope Santi scores. I hope João makes another impact with that. Again, for Feyenoord and Reinders, need a hard work off the ball. Kyle Walker is going to be integral, super important within this one. I'm sort of excited to see maybe the first time at this best 11 on the pitch in terms of talent, because I think that's ultimately what it's going to be. Center back pairing, we'll see what happens. I think that's a interesting sort of thing to see here. Who gets the trust? Is Pavlovic still starting again? Do we see possibly a new right center back in there because what Fick just pulled over the weekend, or does Fikayo start because he's going to be suspended for the next match? I think these are all these little interesting things that we'll see. Substitutes wise as well, we'll see what happens there, because they're, again, Musa not there, Loftus-Cheek not there, he's not ready yet, so it'll be interesting to see what Milan do. Probably the extra defender is what Conceição is likely to pull off, I think. So again, I'm sort of excited for this, but almost every time I say I'm excited, get a little bit of a letdown. But 2-1 for me, 3-1 for Matt. Again, guys, that'll pretty much wrap up this podcast. We greatly appreciate you guys. Again, drop in what you think your score prediction will be for this Wednesday. We'll see what we can do. Probably maybe a post-match review. We'll see if either of us are around for that. And then obviously Verona on the weekend. So again, Milan got a good result yesterday. Bologna dropped some points finally. Can't really go off of Napoli dropping points. Milan are not really close to them, but at least a team that they're sort of chasing and competing for. We'll see Fiorentina versus Inter today. We all want to see a draw, right? So hopefully we don't want to see Inter win. Don't want to see Fiorentina win. But either way, we're hoping for a result in terms of Fiorentina dropping points. I think that's the best course of action for Milan moving forward. So again, 3 points by Milan against Empoli. We'll see what they do against Feyenoord here. Again, you guys can check out Matt's stuff at Matt_Santangelo. Follow him and his brother at AC Milan Bros. Any other final comments before I also plug the other stuff?
Sure. Just want again, like I finish every episode, thank you guys, the listeners, the viewers, for continually supporting what we do here on the podcast. We're trying to, get the podcast out to more people. So please feel free to share it. Tell any football fans who are maybe interested to see, maybe they like Chelsea and they want to see how Joao Felix is doing. They want updates, or Santiago Jimenez. They want to kind of follow what's going on there. Share our podcast, like, subscribe, all the things that Martino mentions. And also, if you guys have been enjoying the more condensed format of our recordings, because I know we've been going with like 25, 30 minute, we're trying to kind of like squeeze things in. If you guys are enjoying that sort of format and it's a little bit more digestible for you, then give us some feedback, right? We're happy to see what you guys want for us to provide with the podcast. You guys want more guests. You guys want, micro episodes that are like 10 to 15 minutes for quick reactions on certain things. Maybe it comes from, a player or whatever. So if you guys have more input on that, please let us know. We're happy to take that into consideration and better, serve you guys.
Yeah. Again, for those who love the podcast format, that's still staying. just to preface, just in case you get a little nervous. But when there's more of a condensed schedule, like Matt is talking about, quick
right.
turnaround, there isn't that many subjects to discuss. Like we both said, like, please, just 27 minutes, like 25, 30 minutes, like yesterday. We're happy to do these. These are very simple. They're easy. Again, hopefully when there's more links sort of heating up again towards the transfer window, profiles linked, might get somebody in to talk about some of the players that Milan might be targeting over the summer. I've reached out to a few people. And again, as Matt had mentioned, it gave me the idea as well. Forget just Chelsea fans and all other fans of different clubs. If you're a USA fan and they're interested in Pulisic and Musa and that kind of stuff too, please send it over to them. And again, a lot of people may not know this that don't live over here in North America or the States. There's a huge following of Mexican El Tri fans. Again, they're interested in listening to this sort of stuff for Santi Jimenez and sort of our things going about that. Please let us know. Send it on in and share it, because we love Milan above all. We've been fans for over 20 years. So again, if you're new to that, we aren't just sort of these guys who've hopped on this sort of bandwagon. We got a few comments like that, guys. No, trust us. You can go to the backlog. You don't really have this much enthusiasm and know about what happens against Empoli without watching the team for like 20 years. So once again, we appreciate you guys. Follow, subscribe, and a quick shout out again to all the other podcasts and great stuff out there. Sempre Milan podcast, MLM podcast, Maxingino Me Marco, Football Kush, obviously
Old Heart Rossonero.
Old Heart Rossonero, yes.
Max and Gino.
Milan Weekly podcast. Again, Milan Coast to Coast with Fabio and Gio as well. Enrico's podcast, which is in Italian. Enrico's YouTube channel in general. And thanks for everyone who had joined over from Enrico's side of things. Again, go over there and comment. Give him some love again as well. He does great post-match reviews. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We appreciate you guys. So take care.